Neva is a beautifully atmospheric adventure set in an increasingly corrupted world. We explore the relationship between Alba, a young woman, and her spirit wolf Neva, through the themes of motherhood and the struggles that come alongside them. The story opens with Alba alongside an adult spirit wolf whose left eye is scarred, and a young cub witnessing a bird die mid-air and fall into the flower plains below. It has been infected by some sort of black flower, a corruption which threatens the beautiful natural world they are living in. A vicious fight breaks out against masked dark entities. During which Alba is knocked unconscious. Upon waking, she finds that the matured wolf has died. And mourns the loss of her friend alongside the now orphaned cub. We then move into summer. Alba and the young cub, who we soon learn is the titular Neva, wake up under a gorgeous, uncorrupted tree. The atmosphere of their forest home is exceptionally peaceful, contrasting the drama of the previous scene.
Neva. Neva.
Alba and Neva explore the area, Neva being exceptionally energetic and excitable, often runs ahead and partakes freely in the waters and fruits of the forest. However, despite her free-spirited personality, she is also inexperienced and uncertain. Alba takes on a motherly role and teaches her how to navigate the environment. Helps her complete an intimidating jump, and calls her along as she is easily distracted by the other creatures of the forest. We see inhabitants like deer and cranes, which are known to signify peace, innocence, and growth. The chosen animals match well with their current home, which is meant to be a safe haven where Neva can spend her childhood away from danger. Alba and Neva's interactions are playful and calm, both clearly enjoying each other's company. The two then exit the forest to see a herd of boar. These often signify courage and war, and their placement on the threshold between our pair's happy home and the expansive unknown is telling. As they pass by the boar, we transition back into uncertainty.
Neva?
And find Neva cowering before a large corrupted tree, its mass of black flowers resembling the position of the deceased adult wolf from the introduction. Alba acts as an emotional support beam, calling Neva and embracing her whenever she is frightened by the darkness. She takes the lead in being brave and staying strong, but it is clear that they're both affected by the shadowy corruption spreading in their lands. The darkness, corrupted nature, and masked creatures we see throughout the game are an open-ended enemy, big enough to represent a whole variety of fears. They could regard the looming climate concerns of our world, war between people, the destruction of affordable life by capitalistic ventures, or simply the day-to-day uncertainties of the future. The development of the game occurred during the COVID pandemic, so you could imagine how concerns over the world's health and changing society could also be referenced. In the end, the shadowy figures are simply fears, all of which could keep a person up at night, but which can grow even more terrifying when you consider how these dark possibilities affect those we care for. Our friends, our family, our children. How scary the future is when you can't be sure you'll always be around to protect them. That intense concern for the future of others can cause you to stifle your concerns for your own life. But even still, it's always there. Alba helps Neva through scary moments, but having something to care for, to protect, also pushes her to keep moving towards a better future. The tender moments they share after Alba clears out a bit of darkness are a mutual comfort. When Alba hugs Neva, she is both assuring the cub that everything is alright, as well as calming her own fear of Neva having been hurt. The summer section overall works to display the protective relationship between a young child and its mother, how much the child relies on the mother, and how much the mother is willing to work for the child's happiness. Alba never progressed to see more and more of the forest has been filled by the masked creatures, which feed off of the spreading corruption. They too narrowly escape a particularly giant beast. The creature takes clear inspiration from No-Face, a spirit character from Studio Ghibli's movie Spirited Away, which for the record is my all-time favorite. It shares the same malleable black body and emotionless expression on a white mask. The game's developers are very open about the artistic inspiration they took from Miyazaki films in general, leaning heavily into their mystic vibes and strong elements of nature. Alba loses access to Neva for the first time, although only temporarily, and the danger of the pair's journey to come is truly expressed. Through moments of battle, puzzles, and calm, Alba begins activating various totems, which release some sort of spiritual power from temple-like buildings, improving the state of the surrounding area. The season ends as Alba defeats an especially large dark spirit, and Neva, who up until this point is too young and afraid to fight, assists in the final blow. When we transition into fall, Alba and Neva continue to live under the large tree, and we see that Neva has grown into a more teenage-like state. However, the environment has become even more corrupted over time. The water they used to drink from has become black and toxic, and the defeated bodies of countless shadow spirits litter the fauna. Our heroes have clearly been defending their forest for a long while, enough that Neva has gained the confidence and strength to join in the brawls, and actively takes point in attacking any threat. Neva has unlocked the ability to heal Alba after fights, growing more in tune with her own spiritual powers. Even despite their efforts thus far, however, the environment has begun to collapse, terrain shattering into pieces and floating precariously into the sky, trees rotting and tearing away from their roots, and shadow creatures taking refuge in any piece of ground. Alba faces a new form of enemy, as the creatures mold together into horrible amalgamations of masks and slime, drawing once again strong inspiration from the monstrous form of No-Face. It really goes to show how even a bunch of small fears can come together to become something so large and horrendous. Our pair continues to take solace in each other, as they commit to exploring deeper into the world, activating additional totems which seem to help cure the corruption. It's interesting to note the apparently man-made bridges and structures that decorate the environment. They imply that humans may have once been more common in the area, despite Alba being the only one of her kind seen anywhere in the game. Perhaps she is one of the last. Or maybe she chose to live in seclusion as someone more in touch with the spiritual world. The developer's earliest concept for the game, which was always meant to portray the joys and struggles of parenthood, focused on two humans, an adult and a child, before they pivoted to the concept of a wolf. The idea of a pair of humans fighting for the safety of the forest does give sort of a spiritually elevated feeling to them. Interestingly, besides having elevated physical abilities like double jumping and dashing, Alba does not herself have any clearly displayed magical powers. As the game progresses, she is able to command Neva to use new abilities, but Alba herself is relatively stagnant. This supports the game's themes of parenthood by emphasizing the growth specifically in Neva. While they do grow together and improve their teamwork, Alba is still a bystander to Neva's personal development. She simply watches as her scared little cub grows more powerful and confident with each fight. That is to say, she watches as Neva becomes more independent. The relationship becomes increasingly even grounded, although Alba still has to occasionally pull Neva away from her overexcitement for fighting the darkness. The urgency of their situation heightens, as shadows quickly begin to stretch across the land and a distinct enemy takes shape amongst the shadow spirits. It appears almost womanly, a tall figure robed in black and wielding a large sword. The robed figure causes a horrible destruction to shoot through the area in a single moment. In this increasingly terrifying environment, Alba has to calm Neva down to progress. Rather than fear, Neva seems to be overcome with rage nowadays, much like a teen's emotions toward the world expand with their growth. The shadow spirits have gained the ability to infect and control deceased animals now, something which hits our pair tragically. They mourn each passing fight against their previous companions. Things that used to feel safe, that felt like home, have become a threat. The harshness of the world becomes more and more apparent. Another struggle of parenthood comes with having to educate your child of possible dangers in even the most innocent places. As much as we wish life could remain as beautiful and safe as it once felt back at home, curiosity and inherent trust eventually give way to wariness. A natural part of growing up, of maturing, is accepting the bad in the world, in the people who surround us. We grow through struggles, but as a mother, Alba still takes the time to mourn with Neva, covering dead enemies in flowers. We must handle unfair situations, but it's important to not let those struggles change us for the worse. In this stage of development, Neva is able to not only fight alongside Alba, but protect her as well. Alba is able to actively send Neva forward into danger. Neva has progressed in skill again, but also Alba has accepted the need to send her child into scary places. In order to keep progressing, we cannot hold on to the ideal of keeping the young in a perfectly little fake world. This new ability, I feel, could represent the first step in a loving parent's hardest struggle: learning to let go. Alba and Neva work in unison to defeat twin dear enemies. In doing so, they return peace to a small piece of the world. Part 2 of the fall season delves deeper into Alba's fears.
Neva?
As we lose sight of Neva and struggle alone through a nightmarish world, the dark spirits have entirely engulfed the area, and there is an eerie quietness to the atmosphere. Imagery of dead adult wolves float in the background as Alba desperately seeks out Neva. She is terrified of losing her, of Neva being alone in a world destroyed by others, of being alone herself after knowing the joys of companionship for so long. An entire fight plays out with a dead Neva image being actively consumed by darkness in the background. A parent's worst fear, the horrible anxiety they must fight each day as to not panic the child themselves, is a concern that everything could be not all right. What if your child can't handle the darkness of the world? What if they get tricked or used? What if people bully or abuse them? What if living independently is too stressful? What if they are slowly consumed by depression and regret, somewhere where you can't help them? These thoughts are ever present in the back of one's mind, and yet there's also a deep desire to never let them show. We want our children to be safe, so we teach them the dangers of the world. but we also want them to feel safe, which makes us want to keep all those worries buried deep inside. It's a tricky struggle, the balance between informed panic and happy naivety. Eventually, Neva becomes a literal light as their environment darkens around them. She serves both as the root of Alba's fears as well as a relief for them. That concern for her safety, after all, is born from Alba's intense love. This section uses interesting teleporting mechanics which were pretty fun to utilize in battle once you got a hang of it, making Alba feel smooth and strong. Though I admit, it could take a second to get a hang of it. Alba eventually faces her greatest fear, a corrupted Neva. Her child changed for the worse, overcome by darkness, controlled by its negative emotions. Her child turned against her. He is unable to land the killing blow, having too much affection in the end, even in the face of an evil incarnation of her child. A mother's love knows no bounds, of course. Luckily, this section was just a nightmare, and she and Neva continue their journey together in winter. Neva is big enough for Alba to ride now, and the two travel through an eerily calm wasteland of snow. Neva is super eager in fights, and the two begin taking on new kinds of enemies. These ones use stone blocks to defend themselves while charging into us. The environment feels at first very similar to the earlier Sky Temple, before the robed woman reappears and knocks our heroes back down to Earth. They tend to go through many steps of the classical hero's journey in this way, having moments of new heights quickly dashed by falls and setbacks, experiencing lows and struggles which they must eventually climb their way back out of. The game then enters an area of reflection, having a moment where Alba must dismount Neva and walk across the mirrored glass alone. As Neva continues to grow and develop into a more independent soul, she and Alba must come to acknowledge each other as individuals. Not just for the maturing Neva, who is learning who she is and looking more outwardly in life, but for Alba, who in this period where Neva requires less guidance, must refine who she is when they are not together. The combat in this section utilizes really interesting mechanics of fighting both in the current plane and in reflection simultaneously. This sort of concept could get aggravating to keep track of, but I actually found it surprisingly smooth in Neva. The new mechanic was both beautifully illustrated and made successfully completing a fight or platforming section feel especially satisfying. We eventually meet another spirit wolf, who is more gray in color and has one broken antler. My first assumption upon playing the game was that this was the deceased spirit of the adult wolf from the game's intro, and that this was some sort of afterlife reintroduction between it and Neva. However, a later reveal completely changes the apparent relationship between that introduction wolf and cub. So, rather than some mother-child reunion, I feel this gray wolf serves two purposes. One, it is more blatantly a partner for Neva, a male wolf who offers her a life path separate from which she has lived thus far, with her mother Alba. And two, in a more metaphorical way, he represents Neva's sense of self. He is first introduced viciously attacking a shadow and looks the part of a fully matured wolf spirit, but seems uncertain about his feelings on our Neva. As a young adult, Neva is in a stage of life where she is discovering herself, who she is and what she wants to be, and what to do with those last hints of childhood. She begins as wary of this new character, but as she watches him run freely alone in the background, she has an increasing interest in the unknown. He represents an alternative life, both independent and capable of jumping in and protecting Alba, but also sometimes requiring assistance in return. Neva and the Grey Wolf nuzzle, representing a growing relationship and an increase in Neva's self-acceptance as an individual. She begins to feel more secure in who she is, apart from Alba, in her ability to be both mature and independent, as well as able to accept help as she had as a child. She can be both strong and emotional, mature and playful, ferocious and kind. There is no need to reject one part of herself, and she is enjoying interacting with someone outside of her known world. Alba, Neva, and the Grey Wolf come together to take down another large boss spirit. We then see as Neva chooses to depart from Alba and travel a path with the other wolf. Alba is here letting her child go, accepting that she must continue her own life and journey even now that Neva has left the nest. Alba's period alone following that release is presented in a very wide angle. She is small in a great large world, surrounded by huge statues and flower pots. The eerily quiet music emphasizes both the loss of cheer in her life, as well as an overwhelming sense of loneliness. When you have grown so used to a companion, to fighting alongside them, to hearing their voice, it can feel pretty daunting to suddenly be alone. The next fight feels long and outnumbered, but as a parent, Alba wouldn't want her own desires to get in the way of Neva's newfound independence. Even after Alba wins a fight, the battle music reduces down to near silence again, returning the player to a state of solitude even after surpassing a struggle. Winter Part 2 essentially aimed to create an atmosphere of learning to be alone again. Alba finds numerous statues of the robed woman being prayed to like a god. They are lurching over her in a dreadful way, but also feel more separated, more ghostly. Perhaps this icy betrayal is to show how her long-held fears, the dangers she wanted to keep Neva away from, no longer feel like things she has any control over. They are so much bigger than her, and Neva's not around to protect anymore. She's gone out into the world to face them on her own already. So, Alba begins swinging at the little fears around her, even ones which aren't fighting back. The environment notably has a lot of bowl-like structures of different sizes decorated about. They really gave me the vibes of walking across a big empty dining table, set for many. The temple gongs, colored in whites and grays, felt somewhat more similar to clock towers as well in this level, perhaps symbolizing the passage of time, the continuing of life even when it feels like you have taken a loss. Letting a child go into the world is an especially interesting sense of loss, too, because it's not as if they've died, they just left the house. And yet, the empty gap that can create can make you feel as if something has died. Alba comes face to face with the robed shadow and begins to fight her alone. She seems to gain the upper hand, but in an instant is held down. In her lowest moment, Neva returns to her aid.
Never.
The two fight together again, just like old times, and nearly win. until the woman corrupts one of Neva's eyes, scarring it before she can escape and end the fight. Neva now takes care of Alba, carrying her to safety and showing her a sight of a healing world after the battle. We move to spring. At home again in the beautiful forest with a fully grown Neva and a newly born cub, Bruma, born with the grey wolf she had left with prior.
Bruma.
The narrative explores a cyclical format, as we once again get to explore the now healing woods alongside a headstrong and playful cub. Alba and Neva are both mothers now, and we get to watch Neva complete the very same duties we fulfilled for her, getting Bruma undistracted from playing with animals, helping them up a ledge, and encouraging them to make a scary jump. Neva walks confidently behind Alba, much more willing to move slowly now that she is older and more familiar with the world. We then enter the introduction boar field again, and the introduction sequence seems to begin playing out.
Bruma. Bruma.
At first, we were led to believe that the wolf we saw die at the beginning of the game was Neva's mother, and that the cub was Neva. However, this expanded replaying reveals that the mother was Neva all along, with her scarred eye, and the game had begun by showing us the final scene. Neva fought and won in one last stand against the Dark Spirit Woman. Explaining why Alba was able to wake up unharmed after being knocked unconscious in the fight. The cub was Bruma, her next generation. Still, she dies. This twist was a real surprise to me, as when it began replaying, I had assumed the game was going to take a full cyclical direction, having the adult wolf be destined to die at the beginning of the new season, and the offspring grow to again fight a never truly dying agent of fear. Mirroring, then, the circle of life and repetitive nature of the world. Instead, the credits reveal how Alba found Neva as a puppy, and she was the first wolf Alba raised. Together they were able to truly defeat the darkness, rather than just serve as one loop in a continuing fight. The game offers a nice bonus shot unlockable by collecting all the bonus flowers and birds in the game. That shows Alba, her hair grown out to show a passage of time, alongside Bruma and her own many pups, further assuring us that the darkness has ended, at least for a good long while. Even so, they still serve to show the cycle of parenthood, in which a parent gives their all to protect and care for the other, only for the child to grow up and protect the parent in the end. Then, as Neva becomes a mother herself, the inheritance of responsibility continues. I'll admit, I did feel a tad disappointed that the game did not choose to go down the destined loop path, with every season renewing the fight and truly emphasizing how a parent's fears for the future are never truly solved, only replaced by the next big concern. I personally love a bittersweet cyclical ending. The way that it can push us to truly embrace the good periods in life while accepting that we will always have fears, and that it's natural to be anxious about the future. We must keep fighting to improve it nonetheless. However, if you look at the game's ending not just as a general metaphor, but as truly the conclusion of Alba and Neva's specific story, it does feel rather fitting. It's nice to feel like in a world where fear took a physical and surmountable form, that our protagonist could truly win, and live out her reward of a peaceful life, even after Neva's sacrifice. Overall, Neva is a visually and auditorily beautiful game that carries the player through the process of raising and growing alongside a child. It portrayed the insecurities of parenthood, the joys of companionship, and the loneliness of letting go. I definitely recommend giving it a play as a primarily smooth 4-hour experience. I love the art style they went for. The linelessness makes the whole game feel like one of those beautiful independent films students from 2D animation schools make, that have a kind of personal touch and emotions that only a small team could create. They wonderfully portray the beauty and tragedy of loving something else so much in life. It can be hard, after all, to feel safe bringing something innocent into the world, when it seems like there are new threats and failings appearing every day. At the same time, raising a child with love and support, getting to watch them grow and experience things through such excited eyes, can also be one of the most fulfilling feelings in life. Parenthood, it's funny like that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. Until next time, bye.